If you're Nigerian, Ghanaian, or from Cote d'Ivoire, or simply you trade cocoa, you produce, you trade, you export cocoa, I need you to watch this video.
I made a reel recently about California Cultured. They're the startup company that's growing cocoa cells in a tank. A lot of you asked, is this just one company? No, it's the entire industry. But wait till you hear what the Mars Candy Company is doing that's far worse in my view. Here's what every major player in the chocolate industry is doing right now. Lindt is investing in lab-grown cocoa. Mondelez, the maker of Cadbury, Oreos, and Toblerone, is investing in lab-grown cocoa butter. Barry Callebaut, the world's largest cocoa processor, is investing in cocoa cell culture. Barry Callebaut isn't a name you'd recognize on a wrapper, but they supply chocolate to Hershey and Nestle under long-term contracts. When they move, half the candy aisle moves with them. But Mars, the makers of M&M's, Snickers, Dove, Twix, Milky Way, Mars bars, and Three Musketeers, among others, is doing something completely different. And this is cause for alarm, in my opinion. Now, let me give you some context around why this industry is doing this. The cocoa supply chain is in real trouble. Global chocolate demand's rising about 3% every year. At the same time, 70% of the world's cocoa comes from West Africa, and West Africa is getting hammered by droughts, higher temperatures, and a nasty virus. Pests and diseases cause yearly losses of about 30 to 40% of the total global cocoa production. That's a lot. The question isn't whether there's a real problem. There is. The question is whether the solutions they've chosen are proportionate to the risk. This is where it gets interesting. Mars partnered with a lab at UC Berkeley where CRISPR, the gene editing technology, was developed. They're going to modify the cacao tree's genetic structure by clipping out certain genes to make them more resistant to disease and drought tolerant. Listen to what Brian Staskowitz said about the partnership. He's the lead Berkeley scientist on the Mars project. We don't want to make the same mistakes as GMOs, he said. There was a lot of public backlash and fear of frankenfood. That's the scientist running the project, worried about his own work. I think it's interesting he thinks of this product as different from a GMO. If gene clipping isn't gene modification, then I'm a red number 40 M&M. I've got more to tell you on this, but I'm out of time. Next reel, I'll tell you exactly why gene editing a cacao tree is in a whole different category of risk than growing cocoa cells in a tank.
So my take on the cell cultured cocoa, aka synthetic cocoa, aka fake cocoa, is that they're trying to do this to cut out the African market, or to be precise, the West African market, because 70% of the world cocoa comes from Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, right? So if they're able to, of course, do this in the next 5 to 10 years, it means they're no longer going to be buying cocoa from other countries, right? So from Africa, South America, and of course, Southeast Asia. And that's going to be a real problem in terms of production, but also it then gives us an opportunity to have a different market where you have synthetic chocolate and then, of course, real chocolate that comes from farms, right? But at the same time, it's still not good. I don't think it's a good thing, but I guess it's technology. So we have to advance in some ways, but it's not a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. The other thing that he mentioned was the CRISPR technology. I think that's good in terms of, I guess, gene modifying cocoas to be more drought resistant and pest and disease resistant. That could be helpful, but it depends how they plan to go on that, right? So that's my take on this. I think it's a bit weird, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.